a brand new and historic campaign off to the races, with Vice President Kamala Harris stepping into the spotlight as the party keeps clearing her path to the Democratic nomination. We're going to take you inside the campaign's first 24 hours with a live look at her first campaign stop happening now in Wilmington. All of it as the Republican ticket changes gears, how the Trump campaign is recalibrating now, given the race's new dynamics, as the former president's new running mate hits the trail solo for the first time. We'll take you there live. Then anger on the Hill as the Secret Service director defends her agency's response to the assassination attempt on former President Trump, yet explicitly describes it as a failure. Why she's still defying calls to step down. And voters got a lot to say tonight as news of this Democratic shakeup ripples across the country. What we're hearing from the vice president's home state of California to the critical battleground of Pennsylvania. And later, the campaign that fell out of a coconut tree and blew up the internet. The rapid mid-brat summer memeification of the Harris campaign a little bit later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and we start tonight with the first look we are getting at Vice President Kamala Harris since that historic turn in the race for the White House, unlike anything we've seen in a generation, with President Biden saying he will not seek re-election and instead endorsing Harris to take his spot at the top of the ticket. So take a look at this. You're about to see live Wilmington, Delaware. This is, well, what used to be Biden campaign headquarters. It is now Harris campaign headquarters. In fact, if I'm looking correctly, look at the backdrop there behind those American flags. It says Kamala, no longer Biden, since obviously he is now off the ticket. She is going to take that microphone there. We're working to crank that live shot up, make sure it gets a little less fuzzy for you. You're going to watch it live right here on NBC News the second that it happens. A significant moment for her, greeting staffers now. She walked in alongside her husband moments ago, kind of rallying the troops here after this whirlwind 24 hours. Opening the floodgates now for big names in the party to come forward with their support. I'm talking 245 governors and congressional leaders so far, including, look at this one. This is a new name. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. That was one that had been hanging out there, but Pelosi coming out today, throwing her support behind Harris. You've got the Clintons, you've got big donors, you've got some possible people that could be on her short list for VP. Now, notably, the top two Democrats on the Hill so far have stopped short of a full endorsement, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. They say they're going to meet with the VP, in their words, shortly. We'll explain why you shouldn't read too much into that in just a second. As Harris, earlier today, speaking on the South Lawn at what would normally be like a super routine celebration of college athletes. This is like the bread and butter of some of those White House events. This one took on a very different light, given it was the first time we'd seen her since President Biden dropped out of the race. Watch.
I am firsthand witness that every day our President Joe Biden fights for the American people, and we are deeply, deeply grateful for his service to our nation.
She talked about President Biden. She didn't talk about her own campaign, but that campaign, the Harris campaign, formerly the Biden campaign, is now reporting $81 million in donations in its first 24 hours since President Biden endorsed Harris. That sets a new presidential donation record for grassroots fundraising. All of it as some of the party's biggest donors, including a Disney heiress, say they're going to pick back up on giving out some campaign cash now that President Biden is out. So what is the path now? The DNC is just 4 weeks away as of today. But a big question, of course, how do voters feel? What do they think about all this? Good for you, good for us. We've got our team fanned out across the country asking people in some of these key states exactly that question. Listen.
I think there's a lot of relief, excitement.
I think she should get out more and mingle with the community and the people and let people get to know her because, like I said, I really don't know her.
I'm just hopeful that everyone can unite, look at the issues, and move forward.
We've got team coverage tonight. Sahil Kapoor posted up on Capitol Hill. Vaughn Hilliard is joining us with the perspective from the Trump campaign. Simone Sanders is joining us as well. But I want to start with Aaron Gilchrist, who is in Delaware. Now, he's down in Rehoboth, a bit further south from Wilmington, where the vice president is now. That is because President Biden is recovering from COVID at his Rehoboth home. As we are taking a look, and I want to see if we can pull that live shot back up, if we have it, if we have any look inside the campaign headquarters, as Kamala Harris gets ready to address staffers any minute, Aaron. It has been an enormously consequential day for her and for the campaign so far.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You talk about the money aspect of this, Hallie, and obviously that $81 million in the course of 24 hours is a tremendous amount of money to raise, and the campaign has noted that there were 888,000 donors who took part in that process over the last 24 hours, and 60% of them were brand new grassroots donors, first-time donors to the now Harris campaign. And as we watch the podium there up in Wilmington, we know that this is the first time that Vice President Harris will address this campaign staff as her staff, entirely her staff. Obviously, over the last 3 weeks, we know she has engaged with the campaign staff before, but this is going to be the first time that they get a chance to look at her eye to eye as the boss, the person for whom they are all now working to get elected. And so it was important for her to do this really on day one, to make that trip from D.C. up to Wilmington, to be able to press the flesh, if you will, with people who are working out of the headquarters in particular, and to say, all right, guys, this is the plan going forward, and to sort of rally the core part of her team in Wilmington before she fans out across the country to continue rallying the rest of the team and potential voters to elect her in November, Hallie.
Sahel, let me go to you because there has been a groundswell of endorsements, I think it's fair to say, over the course of the last 12 hours, including from people like former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who, we don't have to tell our viewers, played a key role behind the scenes in so much of this, in so much of President Biden stepping off the ticket and the dynamics at play for Democrats now.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. Many Democrats are breathing a big sigh of relief that this is finally over. They're hopeful and optimistic about the future. There's a lot of enthusiasm about a potential Kamala Harris candidacy. She would be a historic candidate for a number of different reasons. And the kind of rapid coalescence we've seen among Democrats immediately getting behind her from so many different factions of the party. Her endorsements include the Congressional Black Caucus, the Hispanic Caucus, the Progressive Caucus, the leaders of the House and Senate Democratic campaign arms. You've got swing district members. Even diehard Joe Biden supporters like Senator John Fetterman are now behind Kamala Harris going forward. And then there's the two leaders, Minority Leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, and the Democratic Leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer. Let's play what Hakeem Jeffries had to say.
Vice President Kamala Harris has excited the community. She's excited the House Democratic Caucus, and she's exciting the country. And so I'm looking forward to sitting down with her in person in short order with Leader Schumer, and we'll have more to say about the path forward as soon as that meeting concludes.
And it's going to be quite a sprint for Kamala Harris from now to Election Day if she does, in fact, become the nominee. She starts off a little bit behind, but the first thing she needs is a unified Democratic Party.
Aaron, let me shift back to you here because as we have heard now from Vice President Harris already once today from the White House, we're about to hear from her for a second time again in that campaign setting. There's still an open question as to when we might hear from President Biden himself. He still doesn't feel great, right? I mean, that's the reporting that we have. He's got COVID. His doctor says he's recovering from his symptoms, but it sounds like he's still kind of hoarse. Maybe he doesn't want to address the nation without being in that sort of full strength position.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Our reporting is that the president wants to be at his best. Obviously, for folks who've had COVID, particularly multiple rounds of COVID, they know that lately it's been hitting people pretty hard. And so the president has been here in Rehoboth at his beach house recovering from COVID. We do expect that at some point this week he will make his way back to Washington, and he does want to address the nation. Now having stepped away from his bid for re-election, but still having several more months of this current presidency that he needs to continue to do the work. So we do expect that we'll hear from the president at some point this week, very soon after he returns to Washington. But as you noted, Hallie, he does want to be full-voiced and feeling well when he speaks to the nation as opposed to looking sick and sounding sick.
So, Sahel, what's the next shoe to drop? It feels like it's going to be the selection of a running mate, whoever that may be. And the nexus to Congress, the beat that you cover, would be if it were to be somebody like Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. That obviously will have an impact on the chamber that you're in front of now.
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. The biggest decision that Kamala Harris is going to have to make by a country mile is who she chooses as her running mate. That's going to be her first signal to voters in terms of what kind of campaign she wants to run. Does she do it maybe based on political considerations, who she thinks can balance the ticket and attract more voters? Does she do it on governing considerations? Maybe someone with a different skill set than her who could bring different things to the table that she doesn't come with naturally. It's going to be an enormously consequential decision, given that she has about about 3.5 months or so to introduce herself, reintroduce herself to a different set of voters, to a new set of voters as the presidential nominee. If she does choose a senator, I would expect there to be some nervous Democrats. If it's someone like Mark Hallie in Arizona, given that that's a swing state that would be difficult for Democrats to hold, I'm already hearing some nervousness, Hallie, among Democrats who say, don't take our senators.
Sahil Kapoor, Aaron Gilchrist, thank you. I'm going to ask you to stay close to a camera as we are awaiting Vice President Kamala Harris there at the campaign headquarters in Wilmington. Her campaign headquarters now for the first time on her first full day of campaigning. Somebody who knows her well, somebody who knows us well is Symone Sanders, MSNBC anchor, former senior advisor and chief spokesperson for Vice President Harris. I see two phones, and I want to know everything in the group chats on all of them, so just go.
Well, look, so first of all, yesterday, it's my understanding the vice president was on the phone all day long trying to secure endorsements and shore up support. She wanted statements of support out from people, and she told her staff, I'm not going to get them if I don't call.
And she got them?
And she got them. Yeah. I can't, over 100 House Democrats, notable senators, about 35 of Senate Democrats, 12 as of this morning, I'm sure it's and counting, of sitting Democratic governors, at least 4 full delegations of DNC delegates and members, and that matters. This event, though, at the campaign headquarters, this is critical. I'm pointing down, looking at the desk. This is critical.
Explain why.
This is critical because this was not on the schedule for today. Obviously, the schedule for the week has been appended, but the vice president's, I talked to some folks from her team today, and they said that she wanted to find a way to speak to the staff today, the Wilmington campaign staff that had been working diligently on behalf of President Biden and herself, who they too were shocked by this news.
Who also only found out, many of them, when everybody else
on
found
the
out that their boss was out of the race.
Yes, they found out on social media just like everyone else, and then they had an all-staff call. It was a close hold, the decision that the president made. And so the vice president, I would expect that she would come in here today, and she understands how folks are feeling, obviously. She has had to end a campaign herself, a presidential campaign, and notably after that campaign ended, she went to the campaign headquarters, gathered her staff together at the time. They got together, I'm told they laughed, they cried, but that's just the kind of person that she is. They felt their feelings. Yeah. She's going to need these folks, though. You don't want people walking away from the campaign. We're a little over 100 days out, and after the business of the nominating process is done with the convention fully wrapped up, she's going to need these folks to be full steam ahead for her and whoever that running mate is that she picks.
Okay, let's talk about that running mate, because you know her well, Symone. What is she looking for? In my conversations over the last 18 hours or so, I've heard some Mark Kelly mentum. I've heard some Roy Cooper mentum. Andy Beshear, I think Josh Shapiro, named for obvious reasons, somebody who can win in a red state in Beshear, somebody who can win in a key battleground state in Shapiro. What do you think?
I mean, look, I think that she's going to pick someone that she has a good relationship with. So someone that she kind of knows. She knows Roy Cooper really well, but she also knows Mark Kelly, right? She's gotten to know Josh Shapiro. He was also a former attorney general. She herself, a former attorney general, likes attorney generals, okay? The lawyer people like to stick together. I don't think Gretchen Whitmer is going to be on the list because she has said herself that she is going to be a co-chair of the Harris campaign. She is not interested in the vice presidency. I don't think Governor Moore would be on that list for one of the reasons. He's a new governor.
He just said he's staying in Maryland.
He's a new governor, and I don't think she'd ask. I think she needs someone that is a little, what we like to call in campaign world, battle tested. Someone who's been through the ringer. Somebody who's had a lot of Republican ads maybe thrown against them. Someone who has some crossover appeal to various coalitions of the Democratic Party base, because they're going to need to recobble together that Biden coalition, transform it into a Harris coalition to win this election.
Symone Sanders, we are so glad to have your expertise, your deep well of knowledge, and we'll be looking for you every time you're on air, which is going to be a lot over the course of the next few days. Symone, thank you. I want to bring in somebody now who understands the Hill well, and that is Democratic Congressman from Michigan, Dan Kildee. Congressman Kildee, it's good to have you on this show. It's nice to see you.
Thanks, Hallie. Good to be with you.
So listen, you were not one, and forgive me, we're also keeping an eye on, obviously, the vice president's campaign stop. You were not one of the dozens of members of Congress on the Democratic side who called for President Biden to step aside. So how are you feeling today? Are you comfortable with this decision and where the president landed here?
I'm very comfortable with it. I think the president made the right decision. I chose to communicate my views to the White House and to the president's team privately rather than publicly. That's just a personal choice that I made. But I think he made the right judgment. Look, he's prepared to pass the torch. I think it's really important to point out that he has endorsed a person who is proven. Kamala Harris, when she was an attorney general, a prosecutor, a senator, vice president, has demonstrated that she can lead, as opposed to what we see with Donald Trump, who selected a person who's barely been in the Senate long enough to have a cup of coffee, has no public record whatsoever, no demonstrated leadership, wrote an interesting book, I suppose, but beyond that is an unknown, doesn't even know himself. He once was a Trump hater, now he's fully embracing Trump. Who is this guy? We know who we have. And of the list that we've seen that she's considering for vice president, also very well vetted people. I'm enthusiastic about this. I'm from Michigan. We need to win Michigan. And I have seen an incredible outpouring of enthusiasm just in the last 24 hours. Literally hundreds of new volunteers stepping forward to do the work on the ground.
Just since this news came out?
Just since yesterday.
Wow.
Literally hundreds of new people who have never volunteered for a campaign before are showing up at these offices to roll up their sleeves and get to work.
Congressman, one of your colleagues told me in a conversation just with them, they feel like the Democratic Party is electrified right now. Is that a fair characterization in your view?
That's a good word to use. There's an increased energy, for sure, enthusiasm around this candidacy. Part of it is because we've gotten to know Vice President Harris over the last 4 years. Of course, many of us had worked with her when she was in the Senate. In fact, I worked directly with her on clean drinking water issues, something very important to the people of my hometown of Flint. It's not going to be hard for me to go home to Flint and let them know how much Kamala Harris has been thinking about them, because before anybody had known her name, she was working with me on legislation to guarantee clean drinking water to every American. So she's a person who I'm very enthusiastic about, and I'm already seeing the response back home.
Still a huge question mark, of course, as to who her running mate will be. Of the people mentioned on the short list, and you know the names by now, who do you think is the best person who will help in your state, which is obviously one of the critical ones come November here?
Well, of course, I'd love to see Governor Gretchen Whitmer. I've heard your reporting just in the last few minutes that she may have taken herself out of consideration. I hope she leaves the door open. She's an incredible leader and would help deliver Michigan. Pete Buttigieg is a Michigander now. I mean, he's from Indiana, but he and his husband live in Michigan. He'd be tremendous. I consider Senator Mark Kelly a friend, and he's also demonstrated incredible leadership. But you look at all the other names. These are people who could step in to become president if it was necessary. And that's the first question that a presidential candidate has to answer when they select a running mate. Can they do the job if called upon to do so? I don't know what Donald Trump was thinking, but we know that the list that we have is a good one.
Just on timeline here, do you believe it is a fait accompli that Harris will end up as the nominee of the Democratic Party here? Nobody has announced publicly a run to challenge her yet. Senator Joe Manchin, he was here on our air over on MSNBC this morning saying he's not going to run. Is this it? Do you expect any other challengers?
I haven't heard of any other names. Senator Manchin, talked about it. But look, it's an open convention. When the delegates are released, they're free to vote for whomever they would like. I think it just so happens that there's a lot of coalescence around Vice President Harris because she's demonstrated the capacity to do it. She's won a national election with Joe Biden.
I know you got to go, but walk me through sort of the urgency, the timeline here. If, in fact, there is a virtual roll call at some point between August 7th, I mean, what are you hearing behind the scenes? Does it have to get done sometime in the next couple of weeks? Could you end up going to the convention in 4 weeks from now without a nominee for VP or without a VP pick from Kamala Harris?
I think it's possible that we go that far, but I think if the momentum continues along this path, I think it's entirely appropriate for Vice President Harris to make a selection, to announce that selection to the American people, and for us to begin the campaign right away. I want to see her out on the campaign trail right away. Somebody else can do it if they'd like, but I think she is ready to lead, ready to serve, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work to make sure she wins this election.
Congressman Dan Kildee from the critical state, of course, of Michigan. Congressman, I know you got to run. Thank you for your time this evening. It's really good to see you. Let me go to Vaughn Hilliard now from the perspective from the other side of the aisle, and that is specifically the Trump-Vance campaign. You heard Congressman Kildee reference Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, who's holding his first solo events today as the new Republican VP nominee. What's interesting here, Vaughn, this is a window into the way that the Trump-Vance campaign is likely to go after now Kamala Harris and whoever her running mate may be, if in fact she does end up getting the nomination. We are still waiting to see her, of course, in Wilmington.
Right. This is J.D. Vance's introduction to the campaign trail, and it is to be the first one out of the gates responding to the news that Kamala Harris is going to be the likely Democratic nominee. J.D. Vance, even at his first event of the day, where you see him right now near his hometown in Ohio, remarked that he was regretful that he's not going to have the chance to debate Kamala Harris in the vice presidential debate that was to come. Instead, it is an unknown as to who he will face. And this is where, for the Trump campaign, they've prepared for 20 months the idea that this was going to be a Donald Trump-Joe Biden rematch. And now with just over 3 months left, they are having to rejigger their campaign messaging. And also, you're looking at 7 key battleground states, the potential of the movement of resources here. And so in many ways, they're going to try to make Kamala Harris and make it clear that she is just an extension of the Biden administration policies and an extension of the Joe Biden candidacy.
And Vaughn, you know, what's interesting here, you and our team covering the Trump campaign has been reporting now that for days, or I mean, really weeks, ever since that debate widely panned as disastrous at the end of June, the Trump campaign has been preparing basically oppo, pulling together contingency plans in case what ultimately happened yesterday did happen. President Biden came off the ticket.
Right. It was a month ago that Donald Trump considered his debate performance in Atlanta a knockout blow to Joe Biden. So for almost a month now, they have been well aware that this was going to be a potential outcome. Of course, it was after that debate where there were questions being directed at the likes of Gavin Newsom and Raphael Warnock as to whether they thought Joe Biden should stay in or not. And at the time, it was clear, and based off of a conversation I had just this weekend with the senior campaign official for Donald Trump, their preference was to keep Donald Trump in the race because they had been preparing for this moment, messaging and advertising. So now they're going to have to reshape some of this here. That said, we're 4 weeks away until the Democratic National Convention. And so the Democratic side has much more to focus on in the reshaping of their messaging as opposed to that of the Republicans, who have already gone through their formal nomination process and have 2 men now on the campaign trail with a very clear message.
Vaughn Hilliard, thank you very much. More to watch, of course, as we expect to see that second event for J.D. Vance in the next maybe half hour, 45 minutes or so. You are looking now live at Wilmington campaign headquarters, the now Kamala Harris campaign. Staffers set to hear from the vice president any minute now. It's coming as back here in Washington. You've got the Secret Service director facing furious lawmakers for a marathon session today as she tried to answer for security failures, for what happened that led to that assassination attempt on former President Trump now just about 9 days ago. Well, she's taking, in her words, full responsibility for what happened. She also says she will not resign. Listen to how some of this went down today.
Because Donald Trump is alive, and thank God he is, you look incompetent. If Donald Trump had been killed, you would have looked culpable.
You're here pursuant to a subpoena under oath in front of Congress, and you're unable or unwilling to answer some of those same questions.
Tell us what went wrong.
If you have an assassination attempt on a president, a former president, or a candidate, you need to resign.
You're full of today. You're just being completely dishonest.
All of it comes after we learned that the Secret Service, after NBC News reported that there was a denial of requests over the last few years for more security resources from former President Trump's security team because essentially of a shortfall of staff to fulfill demands. I want to get to Julia Ainsley for more on this. So a couple of things here, Julia. We saw the dynamics at play here in this hearing. It was remarkably bipartisan, and by that I mean she faced mad people on both sides of the aisle. This was not Republican-driven. This was not necessarily Democratic-driven. This was everybody mad and wanting answers to questions. And in some instances, the Secret Service director said she just could not provide because of the investigation that is still happening now.
That's so true, Hallie. One of our young colleagues in this newsroom today said this is the most bipartisan moment he can remember since starting in the news, if that tells you where we are in American politics. But yes, from both sides, Director Sheetal got these tough questions, and really, so many of them she couldn't answer. In fact, in some cases, they were showing reporting, in many cases from NBC, where we were able to get answers. Other media outlets were able to get answers that she wasn't able to give to members of Congress under oath and under a subpoena order today. And in fact, a lot of the questions centered around why that roof was not secure. As we've heard before, the Secret Service left the roof where the shooter essentially took aim. They left that room outside of their own security perimeter and left it in the responsibility of local police. Now, she didn't put too much blame on local police today. She got a lot of backlash for that last week, but she wasn't able to answer basic questions about why they didn't have better visibility to see the shooter on the roofs in the minutes leading up to this incident, and why he could get up there in the first place because it wasn't secure. Here's one of those exchanges.
At any point Saturday, did the Secret Service have an agent on top of that roof?
Sir, I'm sure, as you can imagine, that we are just 9 days out from this incident, and there's still an ongoing investigation. And so I want to make sure that any information that we are providing to you is factual.
People can be suspicious, but they're not a threat until a certain point in time. So when did that happen?
I believe that it was seconds before the gunfire started.
Now, again, this is Sheetal's first time testifying. She's been in the Secret Service for 29 years, worked her way up through the ranks. She's not someone who would have come in as a political appointee or a lawyer from another agency who might be more skilled at this. So we could give her a break there. But some of those questions we got straight answers to in the media. For example, we know there was no Secret Service agent up on that roof. And so it was really surprising to see how she wouldn't even go that far today, Hallie.
The House Homeland Security Committee, so members of Congress, were out there in Butler, Pennsylvania today, which, of course, is the site of that Trump rally shooting in which the former president was shot in the ear. A rally-goer, as you say, was killed. 2 others were badly hurt. You are looking here at some images, some video of essentially that rooftop where the gunman shot from. Talk us through any revelations that came out of that, as this is some video here from last week of investigators there.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, today we saw these viral videos going of members of Congress, some as old as 70, saying that they could easily get up on that roof. So why couldn't Secret Service? And what they're really responding to is a comment that the director made last week to ABC News that the roof was sloped or perhaps too hot, and that was a reason why it wasn't secure. Since then, that statement has really been backed off on, and she basically said it was outside of their security perimeter, and it's unclear why they didn't make it a security risk. In fact, we at NBC were able to report that that roof was seen as a security vulnerability, something, again, she would not commit to today. But take a listen to what House Homeland Security Chairman Mark Green said when he was able to get on that roof today. Hallie.
Before we sit down and have questions of the relevant leaders who made decisions that fateful Saturday evening, that we walked the ground. And it has been enlightening, to say the least. But it probably created more questions than answers today.
Lingering questions here, Hallie, are resources. According to our own research, we understand the Secret Service has actually grown in terms of total manpower, but what's decreased is the people assigned to the protective mission, the very core of what the Secret Service is supposed to do to protect the president and other protectees like Donald Trump. So there'll be more questions about why they aren't able to get the resources they need and why in previous rallies and events, Donald Trump's security detail didn't get everything they requested.
Julia Ainsley, live for us here in Washington. Julia, thank you for watching all of that. More to come on that front, of course, and on that beat. Also more to come from here in Wilmington. That is not Vice President Kamala Harris, of course. That is somebody getting ready for her appearance there at that microphone, set to speak to campaign staff for the first time since she announced she is running for president. We're going to bring that to you live. Plus, why Delta is still having problems getting its planes up in the air, even days after that huge IT tech meltdown. Plus, how rescue teams in Kentucky found a hiker alive more than a week after he went missing. The incredible rescue in just a sec. Three days after that huge software glitch knocked out 911 call centers, hospitals, and airlines off the internet, Delta's still struggling today, canceling hundreds of flights across the country. Look at this. Look at this brutal time-lapse video. This is from a passenger at Atlanta. That's the line to rebook. No, thank you. Wrapping around the terminal. You had similar scenes playing out at some Delta hubs all across the country. Some people sleeping on floors, some people saying they've been on the phone with customer service for hours at a time, in some instances, 7 hours plus. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg now trying to turn up the pressure, saying we expect Delta to provide prompt refunds to consumers who choose not to be rebooked free rebooking, and timely reimbursements for food and overnight hotel stays. NBC's Tom Costello, of course, covers all things aviation for us. He's joining us now. Okay, Tom, what's the latest?
Yeah, hey, Hallie, boy, what a mess for Delta Airlines. We are now well into this computer meltdown. The other airlines, for the most part, have recovered. Delta still struggling. 21% of their flights canceled today. Nearly 7,000 flights since last Friday morning. And this for the airline that has the reputation for really being the most reliable. It's struggling. Why is it struggling? Because the airline says that computer outage, and recall it happened when the CrowdStrike, a cybersecurity software patch went through and then knocked Microsoft Windows offline. It also took down Delta's crew scheduling computer system. Much as Southwest Airlines had that problem, you may recall in December of 22, the grounded Southwest. This is now happening to Delta. So Delta says it has to manually reboot and resync every computer system as it relates to crew scheduling. The trouble is crews are out of position. And so as they've been now dealing with the domino effect day after day after day of flight cancellations, and passengers are missing flights, they're out of position, crews are out of position. This gets worse by the day. Delta this afternoon releasing a statement saying it's taking steps to try to deal with this immediately. They are extending travel waivers. In other words, they will waive the change fees and the fare difference fee as well. They're also updating the right to refund, a refund upon request. If you say, listen, I no longer can go on this flight based on the schedule change, and also covering eligible expenses. That would include hotels and meals for people who are stuck. And boy, have we seen people camped out in airports, especially Delta hubs nationwide. Atlanta, we've also seen Salt Lake City, Minneapolis, St. Paul, JFK, LAX. The major Delta hubs have just been crushed with passengers who are stuck, stranded, and going nowhere fast. This update from Delta, they say they hope they can get things back up and running within a couple more days. Hallie?
Tom Costello, thank you very much. The tip of the spear for all things aviation for us. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the CDC says at least 2 people are dead, dozens in the hospital after a listeria outbreak that was probably linked to deli meat. Infections have been reported in at least 12 states. Health officials say they don't know specifically which kind of meat is the problem here, but they say don't eat any of it until it's been heated at a pretty high temperature. Number 2, the Boston woman accused of killing her police officer boyfriend is back in court today. Remember, the judge in Karen Reed's murder trial declared a mistrial earlier this month after jurors said they were deadlocked. A retrial is set for late January. Number 3, hundreds of migrants from about a dozen countries leaving southern Mexico on foot in a new caravan headed for the U.S. border. Some in the group say they want to make it to the U.S. before November elections because they're worried the border could be closed to asylum seekers if former President Trump were to win. Number 4, McDonald's is extending its $5 value meal to nearly all of its locations, probably through the rest of the summer, after something like 90+% of its restaurants said they wanted the promo to go on even longer. Company executives say it was only supposed to last for 4 weeks, but the offer is driving traffic back to the restaurants. So $5 will get you a full meal at McDonald's for a little while longer. Number 5, LeBron James, chosen by his fellow Olympians to serve as the flag bearer for Team USA in the opening ceremony on the men's side. He's the first ever men's basketball player to do it. James says it is an incredible honor. We expect the flag bearer on the women's side to be revealed tomorrow. And in case you forgot, gang, the Olympics are on NBC. You can actually watch them right here on NBC, starting on Friday, the opening ceremony, live from Paris. We need it, you know? Just a little relaxing trip down the Seine. Coming up, take you back to Wilmington, because coming up any minute now, we expect to see Vice President Harris set to speak to campaign staff for the first time since she announced she's running for president. We are watching it. We're going to bring it to you live the second that it happens. More to come right after this. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Western Bureau, take a look at this. A new fire engulfing homes in Southern California. Officials ordered evacuations in this neighborhood just about 60 miles east of L.A. The fire was at some 400 acres, but look at this. Some other small fires were burning nearby with temperatures up to triple digits this weekend. Out of our Southern Bureau, rescue teams in Kentucky finding a hiker who'd been missing for more than 2 weeks. Just incredible. They found the 48-year-old man near a cliff line after hearing somebody calling for help. You can see it here. They lowered rescuers down a chopper to help get him out. Still TBD on how he's doing, but we'll keep you posted. And out of our Southern Bureau, check this out. Flooding in Dallas. Yeah, that's a highway, not a river. Bad news for that car and for some others. It's apparently not even a new thing for this particular highway. Crews managed to clean up all the water, get all the cars out of the way. They say they're going to make sure the drainage system is inspected before the next big rainfall. Good news for commuters, I suppose. Coming up, Vice President Harris set to speak to campaign staff for the first time since her presidential campaign announcement. We'll bring it to you live. Plus, relief, shock, admiration, all things voters in the battleground state of Pennsylvania say they're feeling tonight after President Biden left the 2024 race. We've got the breakdown coming up live from those key battlegrounds in just a sec. So the Democratic National Convention is just 4 weeks from today, the first one in decades with a situation like this at hand. No clear presumptive nominee a month out from the convention, and a lot of questions about how this is all going to go down. Because just because President Biden passed the torch, passed that baton, so to speak, on to the woman that you see here, his vice president, Kamala Harris, it doesn't mean that it's a done deal, wrapped up in a bow, ready to go yet. Now, she is very quickly racking up delegates on her way to 3,000. Sources tell NBC News the party may be making moves to try to shore her up before any kind of fight at the DNC. Laura Jarrett has been getting into it. Laura, I'm glad you're the one making the calls on all the Rules Committee stuff and everything else, because it can be a little bit complicated. The bottom line seems to be this, and this tracks with some of the conversations I've had on the political side with Democrats here. They think, and many of them hope, that this gets done fairly quickly, not overly expedited, so as to give voters the impression it's like a done deal without their input. Yes. But there are some like deadlines coming up that are real here. Talk us through it.
Yeah, they're the state level ballot certification deadlines, and before your eyes glaze over at that fact, they matter because if they are not on the ballots, Hallie, they're not. That's it. It doesn't matter how much money and tens of millions she's raising if they're not on the ballots. Now, before we get to that point, let's back up. Right? She needs to get the majority of the delegates, and that's why it's so important that you see all these people signaling their support for her. But that's just sort of a signaling. It's not actually done. It's not actually done until they take that vote. And they're trying to do it virtually so that they don't run up against some of those deadlines that I just talked about. So we know the convention's set to happen in Chicago on August 19th. But what about a place like Ohio that has a deadline on August 7th? That's why you now see this push being bandied about by Democrats to try to get it all buttoned up, Hallie. And it's not just for the president. It's not just the top of the ticket. The vice president candidate has to be certified on these certain deadlines, which begin on August 7th. And so she doesn't have all that much time, Hallie, to vet and select a running mate.
Just to get into a hypothetical, and this may be like too far over our skis here on this, but just to talk through it, because there's some complicating factors as it relates to that August 7th deadline, particularly in one of the states, meaning Ohio, because they passed a law that goes into effect, but not until September 1st. In theory, let's say there was a desire, and I don't know that this is going to be the case at all, but let's say it's going to be Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket. She goes to the convention and decides to name her running mate there. That is, in theory, still possible, and they could still end up on ballots across the country?
It is just risky. And so I think, based on folks that I've been talking to, knowing that the GOP is chomping at the bit to file a lawsuit, why are you going to open yourself up to that type of risk when you could get this all buttoned up? I think people were so surprised at how quickly they coalesced around her, and so I think the hope is that she can do the same and get this all buttoned up. And not that they won't be able to get on the ballot, Hallie, but that why take that risk, I think, is the issue.
Laura Jarrett, we're so glad to have you working through all of it. Laura, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Vice President Harris is now the leading and currently only contender for that nomination, of course. As the for now likely nominee, she has less than 4 months, or potential, we should say, nominee, leading contender. She's got about 105 days left to get out on the campaign trail and convince voters to get behind her. NBC's Zincle Asamoah went to one critical state, Pennsylvania, maybe the critical state this election, to see what voters think about the whole thing. Here she is.
Home to the first 2 drafts of the United States Constitution, the state of Pennsylvania is no stranger to history. Now, voters in the key swing state are reacting to the latest.
I almost felt relief because there's been so much back and forth, will he, won't he, that now there was a moment to have some finality.
Tina Lawson is a lifelong Democrat and was a Joe Biden supporter.
After my shock and disappointment, I realized that he put the country first, and I think that's admirable. So I am on board.
First-time voter Nick Urkel wanted to see more competition between candidates.
You know, at this point, you kind of just got to most likely roll with Kamala and hope it works. But I'm definitely disappointed that he waited this long.
If the election were today, Urkel says he would vote for RFK Jr. A critical 19 electoral votes are up for grabs right here in Pennsylvania, with the margin of victory in both the 2016 and 2020 elections less than 1.2% of voters here. And turnout in communities across Pennsylvania could swing the state, like in Butler County, a Trump stronghold where he was shot in an attempt on his life just 9 days ago.
President Biden has endorsed VP Harris to lead the nomination.
Yes.
What's your reaction to that?
I think a lot of men might not be all right with that.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, so I'm not sure. I don't know.
Or here in Philadelphia, where Biden beat Trump in 2020 by more than 470,000 votes.
Do you think Harris can beat Trump?
Yes. Why? She's a woman. She's a lawyer. She'll be a great debater with him.
Who would you pick?
Harris, not because I want Harris, but because I don't want Trump.
I think she's the best person.
This shakeup comes as Democrats hope Vice President Harris can appeal to a broader range of voters.
Here are some groups when you match Harris against Trump where she actually fares better than Biden did. The flip side, though, is Trump improves in some areas with Harris in the race, at least.
Now, Harris is tasked with finding a more suitable running mate. Among the contenders, Pennsylvania's Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro, the two speaking just yesterday.
I think the biggest thing for me would just have to be wanting to pick someone who can help pull a swing state.
I spoke with Shapiro back in 2020 as the state was caught in the throes of a legal firestorm surrounding the certification of votes in his state.
The law requires us to count all legal eligible votes, and that's exactly what we're going to do here in Pennsylvania.
For Tina Lawson, Shapiro would be a good pick.
Yeah, and he's been a great governor so far. Josh Shapiro would be a good choice.
The governor promptly endorsed Harris on Sunday, following her announcement that she intends to earn and win the Democratic nomination. The governor won his gubernatorial race by 15 points back in 2022 and gained national attention for spearheading.
President Biden is speaking on the phone in Wilmington. Let's listen.
You know, I want people to remember that what we have done has been incredible, and we get so much more we're going to get done. And so I want to say hello to Kamala. She can hear me. I know she's going to be speaking shortly. And I want to say to the team, embrace her. She's the best. I want to call today to thank everybody in this effort. I know yesterday's news was surprising and it's hard for you to hear, but it was the right thing to do. I know it's hard because you poured your heart and soul into me to help us win this thing, help me get this nomination, help me win the nomination, and then go on to win the presidency. But you know, you're an amazing team, but we've got a great, I think we made the right decision. I know how hard you've worked, how many sacrifices you made, and so many of you uprooted your lives for me, and the kind of commitment few people make for anything these days, but you made it. And I've been honored and humbled. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. My word is a Biden, for all you've done for me and my family. And we built the best campaign in organization in history. I've been doing this, I always kid and say, I know I'm only 40, but I've been around a long time. I don't know of a better campaign organization, grassroots campaign. You know, we have over 230 offices opened. We have over 2,000 paid staff. And we have literally several thousand volunteers on a regular basis, thousands of them. And they've been relentless and tireless in reaching out and contacting voters. The leadership of this campaign has been amazing. Jen O'Malley Dillon, Julie Quinton, Michael Tyler, Rob Flaherty, Rufus on raising money, and so many more. You built this team, you brought them together, you brought us together, you've inspired them, and you've done what leaders do. Now we got to, you know, the name has changed at the top of the ticket. But the mission hasn't changed at all. And by the way, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be out there in the campaign with her, with Kamala. I'm going to be working like hell, both as a sitting president, getting legislation passed, as well as in campaigning. You know, what we still need to save this democracy. And Trump is still a danger to the community. He's a danger to the nation. And just ask my foreign policy colleagues, my counterparts, and other people around the world and at home. Look, so I'm hoping you'll give every bit of your heart and soul that you gave to me to Kamala. And I want you to know, I won't be on the ticket, but I'm still going to be fully engaged. I've got 6 months left of my presidency. I'm determined to get as much done as I possibly can, both foreign policy and domestic policy. Keep lowering costs for families, continue to speak out on guns and child care, elder care, prescription drugs, and climate. Climate still is the existential threat that we face, and if we don't win this thing, it's all in jeopardy. And we got to keep working for an end to the war in Gaza. I've been working very closely with the Israelis and with the Palestinians to try to work out how we can get the Gaza war to end and Middle East peace and get all those hostages home. I think we're on the verge of being able to do that. And we got to keep our alliances together. It's critically important. It took a while for me to build these alliances. Most of my colleagues have acknowledged that, but it's critically important for our safety and security. And I know I'll be doing whatever Kamala wants me or needs me to do in addition. So let me be real clear. We're still fighting in this fight together. I'm not going anywhere. And I want you to know you've always had my back, and I promise you, I will always have your back. And I'm anxious for you all to hear from Kamala. So thank you, Julie. You're the best.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. President.
Thank you. I'm sticking around. I'm going to listen.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. President, again, for taking time to join our call today. And, as the president said, we are full steam ahead in supporting the vice president, and we are seeing incredible enthusiasm already from our supporters, from Democratic governors to senators to House members to mayors to folks across the country. Our Democratic Party is really uniting around our nominee, and we just announced that we raised $81 million in 24 hours. So now I am incredibly honored to bring up the second gentleman to be able to mark a historic day with us today. With that, I'd like to introduce second gentleman Doug Emhoff.
Wow. Julie, thank you so much. I've known Julie a long time, going back to her days working in Kamala's Senate office. And we put a lot of time together out on the road.
The potential future first gentleman, Doug Emhoff, speaking as we are awaiting now Vice President Kamala Harris. And just before that, some news, of course. President Biden, we are hearing from him, quite literally hearing from him for the first time since he dropped out of this presidential race, since he withdrew his name from the 2024 ticket. He is a bit further south in Delaware, recovering from his COVID diagnosis at home in Rehoboth Beach. I want to bring in Aaron Gilchrist, who is live for us outside the White House now. And Aaron, interesting to hear the president talk about this, saying he is still going to be on the campaign trail advocating for Kamala Harris, saying that while the name has changed, the mission has not, essentially. While the name at the top of the ticket is new, the work that these staffers are doing continues to be, in his view, important. And what's also interesting, Aaron, there's been much made about the potential that he is going to address the nation. He's got a bit of a sore throat, apparently, from COVID. He was pretty audible on the phone there. I mean, he sounded a pretty full voice, if you will, which is perhaps an indication that we may hear from the president. We were expecting maybe midweek rather than later in the week. Still speculation at this point.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think last week in Las Vegas was the last time we heard from the president. The recorded radio interview he did with Univision, when that played out, when we started hearing clips from that interview, it was clear that the president was sick. You could hear him coughing during the interview, and the voice that you just heard over the phone there, as we were looking at the video live picture of Julie Chavez Rodriguez, the campaign manager for now the Harris campaign. You heard the president, like you said, sounding pretty clear there in both further endorsing Vice President Harris for the Democratic nomination for president, but also making the point that he said he's not going anywhere and that he's going to be out there with her, as you noted. He also said that there is still a lot of work for him to do as president of the United States, ticking off some of the domestic priorities and foreign priorities that he still has for the next several months that he is going to be in office. And as you noted, Hallie, at the same time, he intends to be out there on the campaign trail. He noted still there doing the work of the presidency, but also doing what he can to make sure that people who supported him up until this point are very much behind Vice President Harris as well as she moves forward seeking the office of the presidency, Hallie.
Aaron, I'm going to ask you to stand by for a second. I want to bring in Liz Croyd, who's been talking with voters about all of this. And Liz, that is obviously so critical here. We just heard in that Zinkley Esimwa piece, multiple surveys suggest that Vice President Harris maybe polls similarly or perhaps a bit better, as we are looking to see. I'm watching Doug Emhoff leave the stage. Here comes Vice President Kamala Harris and where her numbers are. Let's listen to see what the Vice President has to say to her new presidential campaign staff now as she is embracing. Quick kiss to her husband there. Let's listen.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Can we just give it up again for my husband? It is so good to hear our president's voice. Joe, I know you're still on the call, and we've been talking every day. You guys heard it from Doug's voice. We love Joe and Jill. We really do. They truly are like family to us. And we do, everybody here does.
It's mutual.
I knew you were still there. You're not going anywhere, Joe.
I'm watching you, kid. I'm watching you, kid. I love you.
I love you, Joe. Oh. So, Joe, I'm going to recognize some of the electeds who are here, and then I'm going to get back to you. Hold on a second. So let me please acknowledge some extraordinary national leaders who are also dear friends, both to the president and to me. Governor John Carney, where are you? There you are. And his wife, they are here. Senator Tom Carper, my former colleague, and his wife is here. Chris Coons, my dear friend. Attorney General Kathy Jennings. The mayor is here. Przicki, where are you? There. And the next United States Senator from the great state of Delaware is here, Lisa. And I know everyone here has seen these elected leaders in this very campaign office on a regular basis. And I know Joe is so thankful to them for their lifelong friendship, but I want to thank them also because you guys have really been carrying some heavy water from the first days of our campaign. So thank you all. This truly is a Delaware family. Thank you. I want to thank Jen O'Malley Dillon. Where is she, Jen? I'm going to talk about her in a minute. Julie Chavez Rodriguez. Sheila Nix. And the entire team that is here. I want to thank all of you and those who are joining from offices across our nation. So Doug and I wanted to stop by today to thank everybody and to express just what we know to be true. You all have been working so hard. The people in this office have been working so hard. And you have given so much of yourselves, long days and nights, what you are sacrificing in terms of the time you could be spending with other friends and other family. And you're giving yourselves to our country because you love our country and you love Joe and you love me, and we know that. And so today, just right after Joe made his announcement, it was important for me to continue with his role of leadership in this office, of like him, who has said for many, many, many months, and I say it today, thank you all so very much for what you are doing and what you will continue to do. So let's applaud the team. And I know it's been a roller coaster, and we're all filled with so many mixed emotions about this. I just have to say, I love Joe Biden. I love Joe Biden, and I know we all do, and we have so many darn good reasons for loving Joe Biden. And I have full faith that this team will be the reason we win in November. You all who are here. And as Julie always says, and I will quote the great Julie, we are one team, one fight. One team, one fight. And she's been an extraordinary campaign manager. She's going to continue in this role and see us to victory in November. And we are all here because we love our country, right? And we believe in our foundational principles. We believe in freedom and opportunity and justice, not for some, but for all. And so we have 106 days until Election Day, and in that time, we have some hard work to do. And as JOD always reminds us, we can do hard things. JOD has been such an incredible leader of this team, and that is why I have just asked her to run my campaign, and she has accepted. And so over the next 106 days, we are going to take our case to the American people, and we are going to win. We are going to win. And so now I'm getting back to you, Joe. I will tell you, it has been one of the greatest honors of my life, truly, to serve as vice president to our president, Joe Biden. Joe's legacy of accomplishment, just over a lifetime, but just over the last 3.5 years, is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who served 2 terms in office. Think about it. And I know everyone here in the campaign, we know. But if we don't know, we got a problem. But I'm going to repeat some for those who might be guests at the moment. Joe got the COVID-19 pandemic under control. Remember those days? He has created more than 15 million new jobs. He brought together Republicans and Democrats and passed historic legislation. And I'm going to tell you, I'm a firsthand witness to all this work. I would sit with Joe in the Oval Office while he would bring members of both sides of the aisle and talk and listen and help them see what they may have in common and how we can actually work towards solutions. And because of their confidence in Joe, these accomplishments occurred. Joe has stood up for democracy at home, and he has stood up for democracy abroad, and he has always stood up for what he believes is right. And many of you may know, I first came to know Joe through his son, Beau. Beau and I worked together as state attorneys general. And back then, Beau would often tell me stories about his dad. And he would talk about the kind of father and the kind of man that Joe Biden is. And he would talk about the qualities of his father. And the qualities that Beau revered the most are the same qualities that I see every day in our president. His honesty, his integrity, his commitment to his faith and his family, his big, big heart, and his deep love of our country. And I don't need to tell you all, you know Joe's background, right? I mean, he grew up in a middle-class family in Scranton, and he has never forgotten where he comes from. And so, again, I am a first-hand witness from being with him in the Oval Office to the Situation Room and seeing him on the global stage with world leaders. President Joe Biden fights for the American people, and we are deeply, deeply grateful for his service to our nation.
I'm watching. I'm watching.
We love you, Joe.
You're the best, kid.
And let us be very clear, Joe is not done. Far from it. He knows there is still more work to do, and our nation will continue to praise his bold and visionary leadership as president. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
And it is my great honor to have Joe's endorsement in this race.
You sure do.
And it is my intention to go out and earn this nomination and to win. So in the days and weeks ahead, I, together with you, will do everything in my power to unite our Democratic Party, to unite our nation, and to win this election. You know, as many of you know, before I was elected as Vice President, before I was elected as United States Senator, I was the elected Attorney General, as I've mentioned, of California, and before that I was a courtroom prosecutor. In those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. And in this campaign, I will proudly put my record against his. As a young prosecutor, when I was in the Alameda County District Attorney's Office in California, I specialized in cases involving sexual abuse. Donald Trump was found liable by a jury for committing sexual abuse. As Attorney General of California, I took on one of our country's largest for-profit colleges and put it out of business. Donald Trump ran a for-profit college, Trump University, that was forced to pay $25 million to the students it scammed. As district attorney, to go after polluters, I created one of the first environmental justice units in our nation. Donald Trump stood in Mar-a-Lago and told big oil lobbyists he would do their bidding for a $1 billion campaign contribution. During the foreclosure crisis, I took on the big Wall Street banks and won $20 billion for California families, holding those banks accountable for fraud. Donald Trump was just found guilty of 34 counts of fraud. But make no mistake, all of that being said, this campaign is not just about us versus Donald Trump. There is more to this campaign than that. Our campaign has always been about two different versions of what we see as the future of our country, two different visions for the future of our country. One focused on the future, the other focused on the past. Donald Trump wants to take our country backward to a time before many of our fellow Americans had full freedoms and rights. But we believe in a brighter future that makes room for all Americans. We believe in a future where every person has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. We believe in a future where no child has to grow up in poverty. where every person can buy a home, start a family, and build wealth. And where every person has access to paid family leave and affordable child care. That's the future we see. Together we fight to build a nation where every person has affordable health care, where every worker is paid fairly, and where every senior can retire with dignity. All of this is to say, building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency. Because we here know when our middle class is strong, America is strong. And we know that's not the future Donald Trump is fighting for. He and his extreme Project 2025 will weaken the middle class and bring us backward. Please do note that. Back to the failed trickle-down policies that gave huge tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations and made working families pay the cost. Back to policies that put Social Security and Medicare on the chopping block. Back to policies that treat health care as only a privilege for the wealthy instead of what we all know it should be, which is a right for every American. Right. America has tried these economic policies before. They do not lead to prosperity. They lead to inequity and economic injustice. And we are not going back. We are not going back. You're not taking us back. Our fight for the future is also a fight for freedom. Generations of Americans before us have led the fight for freedom, from our founders to our framers, to the abolitionists and the suffragettes, to the freedom riders and farm workers. And now I say, team, the baton is in our hands. We who believe in the sacred freedom to vote. We who are committed to fight to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. We who believe in the freedom to live safe from gun violence. And that's why we will work to pass universal background checks, red flag laws, and an assault weapons ban. We who will fight for reproductive freedom, knowing if Trump gets the chance, he will sign a national abortion ban to outlaw abortion in every single state, but we are not going to let that happen. It is this team here that is going to help in this November to elect a majority of members of the United States Congress who agree the government should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. And when Congress passes a law to restore reproductive freedoms, as President of the United States, I will sign it into law. Indeed, we the people. So ultimately, to all the friends here, I say, in this election, we know we each face a question: what kind of country do we want to live in? A country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law? Yes! Or a country of chaos, fear, and hate? No. You all are here because you as leaders know we each, including our neighbors and our friends and our family, we each as Americans have the power to answer that question. That's the beauty of it, the power of the people. We each have the ability to answer that question. So in the next 106 days, we have work to do. We have doors to knock on. We have people to talk to. We have phone calls to make. And we have an election to win. Of America. And are we willing to fight for it? And when we fight, we win. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America and Joe Biden.
You have been listening to Vice President Kamala Harris there speaking for the first time to campaign staff in Wilmington. There's her husband, of course, Doug Emhoff, as she is about to walk out. Let's listen for just a second. Let's keep this shut up if we can, in case she takes any questions from the pool that is traveling with her, that pool of reporters there. The vice president making some news, saying that she will essentially take on the staff apparatus that President Biden had in place for when he was at the top of the ticket, including, of course, the campaign manager. I want to bring in, as we're watching, as we're listening here, a couple of folks, including Aaron Gilchrist, including Monica Alba as well. Monica, let me start with you and bring you into the conversation here. Some interesting and notable moments from the vice president here, as President Biden himself hopped on the phone and then throughout her remarks, chatted a bit with her. You heard a couple of those moments where she talked about, you know, Joe, she says, we're here with you. I know he's not done yet. And he said, you know, I got you, kid, or something to that effect. You could see the dynamic between the two of them as she really expressed her gratitude for what he's done as she now moves on to try to take the White House for a second term.
And he had two key words there for his former campaign, Hallie, and that was when speaking about the vice president, he said, embrace her. That is what he wanted those staffers in Wilmington, Delaware, to really take away as a key message. He did call into this event, which was unscheduled. We knew that she was going to be going to campaign headquarters to greet staff, but then she really ended up giving a little bit of a speech there that I think should be interpreted as her own theory of the case as she sees it, as she is vying for this Democratic nomination. And within that, she certainly brought up some themes that she has talked about on the campaign trail over the last few years when referencing Donald Trump. But I think she really introduced a section of her speech that we will likely hear time and time again, which is the way that she views her history as a prosecutor, as a former attorney general, using those roles and saying that when she was in those jobs years ago, that she dealt with perpetrators of all kinds, she said. She referenced people who had abused women, fraudsters who had ripped off consumers, she said, people and cheaters, she identified, who had tried to cut corners for their own gain. And then she ended that section by saying, to be clear, she said, quote, hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. Now, we know from many conversations with sources in Vice President Harris's orbit that this was something that many people were pointing to as a reason for why some have coalesced around her in the Democratic Party over the last 24 hours or so, is because they think that she will be able to prosecute this case against Donald Trump in a different way, perhaps, than Joe Biden had been doing, in a different way, perhaps, than other Democrats who were thinking about trying to challenge her and ultimately decided not to. And so what's significant here, I think, Hallie, to point out as well, is that the president did pipe in a couple of times saying that he was watching her, saying and calling her kid with total affection, and really even saying the words, I love you, and trying to communicate that. And you're right that in terms of how this is all going to work, Vice President Harris said that she asked Jen O'Malley-Dillon, who's a campaign co-chair, to stay on board to effectively run the campaign and keep doing that, and she has agreed to it. But I think what you saw there was a very energized Vice President Harris, who in turn is energizing her own now staff for the Harris for President operation. And we're talking about people who just yesterday were in tears, were confused, were unsure of the path ahead when President Biden ultimately decided to bow out of the 2024 race. Hallie.
Monica Alba, thank you so much. Aaron Gilchrist, to you now with President Biden, where you are in Rehoboth. So interesting to see the dynamics at play here, especially as it relates to, as Monica was talking about, the staffing piece of it, the infrastructure piece of it. We know that the vice president is poised to inherit that Biden campaign war chest. It is now the Harris campaign war chest. And you heard Julie Chavez-Rodriguez talk about the $80 million that have been hauled in over the course of the last 24 hours, ever since this race was upended by President Biden's move. I hear rain, Aaron. I'm assuming that's at your live shot, a rainy day in Rehoboth, perhaps, as we are waiting to see when President Biden may himself address the nation on camera as opposed to on the phone, as we just heard from him.
Yeah, we expected that will happen at some point this week, Hallie, and you're right. We're in the rain, and I'm hoping these umbrellas hold out here for a few more minutes while we're talking to you. But the president has indicated, we know from sources, that he wants to speak to the American people in particular, and he intends to do that at some point this week. Obviously, hearing him on the phone there, this is the first time we've heard his voice since he left Las Vegas, where he did campaign events, and made his way here to Rehoboth Beach while he's dealing with a positive COVID-19 diagnosis. And so I think going forward, we can expect to hear the president say something very similar to what we heard him say to the campaign team here, that he very much supports his vice president in her run for president now. At the beginning, as Monica noted, he said, embrace her. She is the best. And you could definitely hear, I think, between them in that little bit of banter conversation over the phone, you could hear that there is a lot of love between these two. They both said it to each other. I love you. I love you. You heard it from each of them during the course of that exchange there. And then the vice president went on to really talk about Joe, as she called him several times, as a president and as a person, clearly expressing the admiration that she's felt for him over the course of the 3.5 years that they've worked together, and quite likely for a longer period of time. I think we're also going to, I would want to point out that we heard from the vice president for the first time, I think, really, her embracing this new role that she has, talking about building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency. The first time we've heard her obviously use those words, and she said that a few times in talking about the things that she wants to do, things that sound very similar to what we heard from President Biden while he was out on the campaign trail. But now she is able to take ownership as ideas that she wants to execute during her presidency, should she win in November. And I have to tell you, Hallie, I've been to a couple of her events through the course of this year. We don't typically pay, quite frankly, this much attention to a vice president. You don't normally hear a full speech coming from a vice president. Obviously, now she is the candidate for the Democratic Party and likely to become the nominee in a couple of weeks here. And a lot of what we heard from her today, I've heard from her in some of the remarks that she's made out on the campaign trail. She's done a ton of campaigning over the last 7 or 8 months in particular. But those things now are going to be things that she can solely take ownership of and present as things that she and President Biden worked on together, but things that she will expand on in a Harris presidency if she wins in November, Hallie.
Aaron Gilchrist. Aaron, thank you very much. Let me play a little bit of what we heard from President Biden, Liz, because I know you've been chatting with voters, talking with them in some of these critical states about their perspective on the now changed rates. Let me remind people what the president said just within the last maybe 40 minutes, not even, as we've been in that rolling coverage here on NBC News. Let's play it.
But the mission hasn't changed at all. And by the way, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be out there in the campaign with her, with Kamala. I'm going to be working like hell.
So, Liz, talk us through what you've been hearing from folks.
Yeah, well, Hallie, I'm here in San Francisco, which is the very place that Kamala Harris got her start in Democratic politics, a city that's propped her up and been a big supporter of hers for her decades-long career, and the place where she was a prosecutor and a district attorney. So I think, Hallie, it was really notable to hear Kamala Harris leaning into that part of her bio here. And here this morning in San Francisco, right outside City Hall, there was a unity rally for Kamala Harris, where Democratic elected leaders and members of the Democratic Party came together to support her. And the rallying message here was, hey, we have all known her for decades. Now we should all come together and teach people in battleground states who the real Kamala Harris is. And we are seeing Democrats who have known her for decades, like former Congresswoman Jackie Speer, now make the case for her. Take a listen.
What does it mean to you to see Kamala Harris now running for president?
I'm happy.
Yeah, what do you like about her?
That she's a girl.
You like that?
Does it make you think you could do that one day? What about you, Olivia? What do you like about Kamala Harris?
I like that she's like me and she's a girl.
Now we have the oldest candidate ever running for president in Donald Trump, who also, I think, once the media starts to drill down on his issues, will find that he has many mental lapses. And I think that Kamala Harris brings a new generation. She's 59 years old. She will be able to make the distinction that she can lead and lead for the full 4 years.
So again, you're seeing them kind of take the Republican talking point and twist it now against them there. Prior to that, you were hearing some little girls that came out here today so excited to see a woman now potentially as the presumptive nominee here. So overall excitement, and we are seeing unity in a city, Hallie, where usually the party can be pretty fractured getting around her.
Liz Kreutz live in San Francisco. Thank you. And speaking of California, speaking of unity inside the Democratic Party, that new endorsement now coming from the former House Speaker. And in just the last literally 3 minutes, as Liz was speaking there, we have actually seen and heard from Nancy Pelosi, who has been critical in this process, on camera over in the building a few blocks from me on Capitol Hill. Let me turn that around. I want to play it for folks now so you can see it for yourselves. Watch.
Speaker Pelosi, what's your reaction to President Biden's decision to leave the race?
Well, I've been talking about that quite a bit, but we're very excited about praising his legacy and electing Kamala Harris president.
Very brief remarks there from the former House Speaker. But Monica, as you well know, based on you and the team's reporting here, she was in many ways instrumental to get to the moment where we're at now, as she has now fully backed Kamala Harris in her run for the White House. Now, Kamala Harris, of course, not the official or even presumptive nominee, but clearly it appears now the front runner for that position.
Yeah, and it was her voice in the party leading up to President Biden's decision that was also so critical, Hallie. We really can't overstate that, and the way that behind the scenes she was operating, the way that she was talking to certain lawmakers about making up their mind to speak out, about asking President Biden to reconsider his position, to leave the race, the way that she was sort of orchestrating some of that, and the way that we saw that happen in some kind of a coordinated fashion at some points. And she was also a key voice that had said during the week of the NATO conference in Washington, D.C., well, let's take a beat. Let's wait for that to conclude before President Biden speaks about this. So there was a question yesterday about whether she was going to come out and immediately endorse Kamala Harris. And it's clear that she did want to give, it seems, a little bit of space, as we saw from former President Obama and others who are still waiting to give their endorsement to Vice President Harris, that they wanted to give a little bit of a moment and a space there to make sure that this process appears as democratic as it is playing out in real time. Hallie.
Monica Alba live for us outside the White House. Aaron Gilchrist in Rehoboth, Liz Kreutz in California. Thank you. Let me bring in now Jeff Mason, somebody who is a longtime White House watcher. He is joining us now. Jeff, I think you had a chance to listen in to what we heard from Vice President Harris there in Wilmington, and from what we heard from President Biden himself, too. Notable because, again, first time in the 24 hours since he withdrew from the race that we have at least quite physically heard the voice of the president here, Jeff.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. I've been in Rehoboth since Wednesday night when the president first got back from Las Vegas, and we haven't laid eyes on him once. I'm there now. Yes, I'm still in Rehoboth, waiting to go back to D.C. when he's ready to go back to D.C. And it's unusual, as you know, from your time at the White House, to be in the pool every day and not actually see the president at all. So, and that's because he's been sick. But I think that does underscore how sort of momentous it was that he called in just now to that meeting in Wilmington to show his support for Vice President Harris and to touch base with the campaign staff who, let's be honest, signed up for this gig thinking that they were going to be working for him to become president of the United States, and are now having to make a transition to Vice President Harris. And it looks like it's going to be pretty seamless, especially with her announcement about keeping staff. But, you know, something I've certainly picked up on in my reporting in the last 24 hours, but honestly, even last week, is that there is a great deal of anguish and grief and a mourning process going on in the Democratic Party as they sort of bid farewell to Joe Biden as their candidate. But that's getting replaced now by excitement about Kamala Harris. And you certainly saw that in that room today.
It's interesting. You did not hear necessarily an angry Joe Biden on that phone call. With our reporting here at NBC News, that he had been very frustrated
Hallie, I'm not
prior
hearing
to
you.
this. Okay, Jeff. How about now? Or else, if the sound dropped out, we're just gonna bid you a fond farewell, my sweet friend. All right. Love you, Jeff. We'll catch you later on. Appreciate you. And we're going to keep working on that sound from Jeff Mason, and our thanks to him there as he is holed up in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. The point we're making, of course, is that for President Biden did not necessarily sound angry, as our reporting here at NBC News has suggested he was when those calls came up for him initially to step out of the race. All eyes, of course, on what happens with Kamala Harris and who her running mate will be. More on that as we pick back up after the break. Also more on the other huge headlines of the day, including what might be our lead story on any other day. Fury on the Hill as the Secret Service director defends her agency's response to that assassination attempt on former President Trump. Why she's defying calls to step down, even after acknowledging that, in her words, we failed. That's next. The Secret Service director facing furious lawmakers for a marathon 4.5 hours today as she tried to answer for the security failures that led to the assassination attempt on former President Trump now just about 9 days ago. And while Director Kimberly Cheadle is taking, in her words, full responsibility for what happened, she also says she's not resigning. Listen to some of what she faced today from both sides of the aisle.
Because Donald Trump is alive, and thank God he is, you look incompetent. If Donald Trump had been killed, you would have looked culpable.
You're here pursuant to a subpoena under oath in front of Congress, and you're unable or unwilling to answer some of those same questions.
Tell us what went wrong. If you have an assassination attempt on a president, a former president, or a candidate, you need to resign.
You're full of today. You're just being completely dishonest.
All of it's coming after we learned the Secret Service denied requests over the last few years, according to our reporting at NBC News, for more security resources from former President Trump's team because there just was not enough staff, we're told, to fulfill those demands. Julia Ainsley is joining us now. So a couple of things here, Julia. We saw the dynamics at play here in this hearing. It was remarkably bipartisan, and by that I mean she faced mad people on both sides of the aisle. This was not Republican-driven. This was not necessarily Democratic-driven. This was everybody mad and wanting answers to questions. And in some instances, the Secret Service director said she just could not provide because of the investigation that is still happening now.
That's so true, Hallie. One of our young colleagues in this newsroom today said this is the most bipartisan moment he can remember since starting in the news, if that tells you where we are in American politics. But yes, from both sides, Director Cheadle got these tough questions, and really, so many of them she couldn't answer. In fact, in some cases, they were showing reporting, in many cases from NBC, where we were able to get answers. Other media outlets were able to get answers that she wasn't able to give to members of Congress under oath and under a subpoena order today. And in fact, a lot of the questions centered around why that roof was not secure. As we've heard before, the Secret Service left the roof where the shooter essentially took aim. They left that room outside of their own security perimeter and left it in the responsibility of local police. Now, she didn't put too much blame on local police today. She got a lot of backlash for that last week, but she wasn't able to answer basic questions about why they didn't have better visibility to see the shooter on the roofs in the minutes leading up to this incident, and why he could get up there in the first place because it wasn't secure. Here's one of those exchanges.
At any point Saturday, did the Secret Service have an agent on top of that roof?
Sir, I'm sure, as you can imagine, that we are just 9 days out from this incident, and there's still an ongoing investigation. And so I want to make sure that any information that we are providing to you is factual.
People can be suspicious, but they're not a threat until a certain point in time. So when did that happen?
I believe that it was seconds before the gunfire started.
Now, again, this is Cheadle's first time testifying. She's been in the Secret Service for 29 years, worked her way up through the ranks. She's not someone who would have come in as a political appointee or a lawyer from another agency who might be more skilled at this. So we could give her a break there. But some of those questions we got straight answers to in the media. For example, we know there was no Secret Service agent up on that roof. And so it was really surprising to see how she wouldn't even go that far today, Hallie.
The House Homeland Security Committee, so members of Congress, were out there in Butler, Pennsylvania today, which, of course, is the site of that Trump rally shooting in which the former president was shot in the ear. A rally goer, as you say, was killed. 2 others were badly hurt. You are looking here at some images, some video of essentially that rooftop where the gunman shot from. Talk us through any revelations that came out of that, as this is some video here from last week of investigators there.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, today we saw these viral videos going of members of Congress, some as old as 70, saying that they could easily get up on that roof. So why couldn't Secret Service? And what they're really responding to is a comment that the director made last week to ABC News that the roof was sloped or perhaps too hot, and that was a reason why it wasn't secure. Since then, that statement has really been backed off on, and she's basically said it was outside of their security perimeter, and it's unclear why they didn't make it a security risk. In fact, we at NBC were able to report that that roof was seen as a security vulnerability, something, again, she would not commit to today. But take a listen to what House Homeland Security Chairman Mark Green said when he was able to get on that roof today. Hallie.
Before we sit down and have questions of the relevant leaders who made decisions that fateful Saturday evening, that we walked the ground. And it has been enlightening, to say the least. But it probably created more questions than answers today.
Lingering questions here, Hallie, are resources. According to our own research, we understand the Secret Service has actually grown in terms of total manpower, but what's decreased is the people assigned to the protective mission, the very core of what the Secret Service is supposed to do to protect the president and other protectees like Donald Trump. So there'll be more questions about why they aren't able to get the resources they need and why in previous rallies and events, Donald Trump's security detail didn't get everything they requested.
Julia Ainsley, live for us here in Washington. Julia, thank you for watching all of that. And coming up here on the show, much more to get to, including relief, shock, admiration. What matters to voters now that President Biden is out of the race? We're taking you to one key battleground coming up in our breakdown in just a sec. Vice President Harris, now the leading and currently only contender for the Democratic presidential nomination after President Biden withdrew from the race just about 24 hours ago. And as for now, the front runner here, she has less than 4 months to get out on the campaign trail and convince voters to get behind her come November. NBC's Zinkley Esamoah visited one of the most critical battleground states this election, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, to see what voters think. Listen.
Home to the first 2 drafts of the United States Constitution, the state of Pennsylvania is no stranger to history. Now, voters in the key swing state are reacting to the latest.
I almost felt relief because there's been so much back and forth, will he, won't he, that now there was a moment to have some finality.
Tina Lawson is a lifelong Democrat and was a Joe Biden supporter.
After my shock and disappointment, I realized that he put the country first, and I think that's admirable. So I am on board.
First-time voter Nick Urkel wanted to see more competition between candidates.
You know, at this point, you kind of just got to most likely roll with Kamala and hope it works. But I'm definitely disappointed that he waited this long.
If the election were today, Urkel says he would vote for RFK Jr. A critical 19 electoral votes are up for grabs right here in Pennsylvania, with the margin of victory in both the 2016 and 2020 elections less than 1.2% of voters here. And turnout in communities across Pennsylvania could swing the state, like in Butler County, a Trump stronghold where he was shot in an attempt on his life just 9 days ago.
President Biden has endorsed VP Harris to lead the nomination.
Yes.
What's your reaction to that?
I think a lot of men might not be all right with that. Yeah, maybe. You know, so I'm not sure. I don't know.
Or here in Philadelphia, where Biden beat Trump in 2020 by more than 470,000 votes.
Do you think Harris can beat Trump?
Yes. Why? She's a woman. She's a lawyer. She'll be a great debater with him.
Who would you pick?
Harris, not because I want Harris, but because I don't want Trump.
I think she's the best person.
This shakeup comes as Democrats hope Vice President Harris can appeal to a broader range of voters.
Here are some groups when you match Harris against Trump where she actually fares better than Biden did. The flip side, though, is Trump improves in some areas with Harris in the race.
Now, Harris is tasked with finding a suitable running mate. Among the many contenders, Pennsylvania's Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro, the two speaking just yesterday.
I think the biggest thing for me would just have to be wanting to pick someone who can help pull a swing state.
I spoke with Shapiro back in 2020 as the state was caught in the throes of a legal firestorm surrounding the certification of votes in his state.
The law requires us to count all legal eligible votes, and that's exactly what we're going to do here in Pennsylvania.
For Tina Lawson, Shapiro would be a good pick.
Yeah, and he's been a great governor so far. Josh Shapiro would be a good choice.
The governor promptly endorsed Harris on Sunday, like much of the Democratic Party, following her announcement that she intends to earn and win the Democratic nomination. The governor won his gubernatorial race by 15 points back in 2022 and gained national attention for spearheading the reopening of the I-95 last summer, less than 2 weeks after a fiery collapse. Shapiro spoke earlier today about climate initiatives, fielding questions about VP speculation.
All I'm focused on is defeating Donald Trump. She needs to choose someone that she's prepared to govern with.
As Harris prepares to shape her ticket and potentially reshape the race, some voters are skeptical.
It's going to be really hard to pull off a campaign in this short a time,
while others are energized.
I also think that she has the appeal to bring younger voters out to vote. You know, you can go on social media and see so many people excited about Vice President Kamala Harris running.
And Hallie, as I talked with voters earlier today, it was a little bit sunnier, but another notable point is this fact that Vice President Kamala Harris would be the first Asian American and black woman president. Interestingly, no one actually brought that up organically, but when I asked them if they thought America was ready for such a president, there was optimism. Where race did come up was in the running mate for Vice President Harris, as you heard in that spot. Josh Shapiro, governor, is actively being considered. We know he spoke with Vice President Harris on Sunday. However, there are a lot of contenders in what's proving to be a very eventful race. Hallie.
No joke. Zinkley Esima braving the elements there for us in PA. Love to see you there, Zinkley. Thank you much. Let's get the view from the other side of the aisle with Garrett Haake, who is at J.D. Vance's first day of solo campaigning in Virginia, where he has just taken the stage. And Garrett, yep, that's right, bud. You're up, you're on, you're live, man. Take it away. What are you seeing? What's the vibe there?
Hallie, it's a tale of two events for J.D. Vance today. He started the day in Ohio, an event in his hometown, in which he kind of meandered through his own biography, eventually getting to a process argument about how Democrats had somehow stolen this nomination from Joe Biden. That was really as close as he came to taking on the likely Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris, in the first event. Today, he came out on stage and has spent now the first 12 to 15 minutes of this rally leveling attack after attack after attack on Kamala Harris. It's like somebody tore up his notes and told him to start over. He called Harris a million times worse than Joe Biden on basically every issue and went through what are going to become the GOP's top talking points in attacking her. I think the two things right off the top on immigration, calling her the quote-unquote border czar, suggesting she failed on immigration and would fail on other issues. And even as I'm speaking now, he's talking about the idea that Kamala Harris was somehow complicit in a cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline and his condition. Hallie, the Trump campaign has long telegraphed that these would be the primary ways would go after Kamala Harris. They sort of tripped over their feet in the last 24 hours, getting those attack lines out clearly. J.D. Vance doing it now with gusto.
There's also a line that we've heard, not just from the Trump-Vance campaign, but from Republicans more broadly, this idea that if Joe Biden is not fit to run for office, they say, then he is not fit to serve in the White House, and they continue to do so. President Biden, when we were listening in live to him calling in to Wilmington at that first campaign stop from Vice President Harris, made very clear that he is putting his energy, putting his focus to continuing to run the business of the country for the next 6 months. Garrett.
Yeah, and I think that's not unusual, Hallie. I mean, look, lame duck and retiring lawmakers across history and across Congress and governorships and presidencies would probably disagree with that assertion from Republicans. It is perhaps a useful talking point and a way to keep Joe Biden in the headlines while Republicans try to get a handle on how they'll run against Kamala Harris. But the idea that just because someone's not running for re-election means they're incapable of doing their job would certainly be news to the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, for example, who's announced he's not seeking re-election and is perfectly content to continue leading the Senate Republican conference.
Garrett Hake live for us there, just outside Roanoke, Virginia, in Radford there, after a lengthy and helpful road trip down in Southern Virginia. Garrett, thank you so much. Glad to see you there, friend. Appreciate it. So listen, the Democratic National Convention is just a few weeks away. Here we are, fresh off the Republicans' version in Milwaukee. We're thinking about Chicago coming up just 4 weeks from today. And for the first time in decades, we have the situation that we are confronted with now in politics here. The Democratic Party with no clear answer as to who will be at the top of their ticket. She, the woman you're looking at now, the vice president, is clearly the front runner. The party seems to be moving quickly to coalesce around her, but it is not a done deal yet. Just because President Biden endorsed her, just because Democrats are backing her, doesn't mean that it is, check mark, good to go from there. She is racking up some delegates, but there's still a process ahead. And our Laura Jarrett has been taking a very close look at that process. She's joining us now. Laura, I'm glad you're the one making the calls on all the rules committee stuff and everything else, because it can be a little bit complicated. The bottom line seems to be this, and this tracks with some of the conversations I've had on the political side with Democrats here. They think, and many of them hope, that this gets done fairly quickly, not overly expedited, so as to give voters the impression it's like a done deal without their input. Yes. But there are some deadlines coming up that are real here. Talk us through it.
Yeah, they're the state level ballot certification deadlines, and before your eyes glaze over at that fact, they matter because if they are not on the ballots, Hallie, they're not. That's it. It doesn't matter how much money and tens of millions she's raising if they're not on the ballots. Now, before we get to that point, let's back up. Right? She needs to get the majority of the delegates, and that's why it's so important that you see all these people signaling their support for her. But that's just sort of a signaling. It's not actually done. It's not actually done until they take that vote. And they're trying to do it virtually so that they don't run up against some of those deadlines that I just talked about. So we know the convention's set to happen in Chicago on August 19th, but what about a place like Ohio that has a deadline on August 7th? That's why you now see this push being bandied about by Democrats to try to get it all buttoned up, Hallie. And it's not just for the president. It's not just the top of the ticket. The vice president candidate has to be certified on these certain deadlines, which begin on August 7th. And so she doesn't have all that much time, Hallie, to vet and select a running mate.
Just to get into a hypothetical, and this may be too far over our skis here on this, but just to talk through it, because there's some complicating factors as it relates to that August 7th deadline, particularly in one of the states, meaning Ohio, because they passed a law that goes into effect, but not until September 1st. In theory, let's say there was a desire, and I don't know that this is going to be the case at all, but let's say it's going to be Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket. She goes to the convention and decides to name her running mate there. That is, in theory, still possible, and they could still end up on ballots across the country?
It's just risky. And so I think, based on folks that I've been talking to, knowing that the GOP is chomping at the bit to file a lawsuit, why are you going to open yourself up to that type of risk when you could get this all buttoned up? I think people were so surprised at how quickly they coalesced around her. And so I think the hope is that she can do the same and get this all buttoned up. And not that they won't be able to get on the ballot, Hallie, but that why take that risk, I think, is the issue.
Laura Jarrett, we're so glad to have you working through all of it. Laura, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Still to come, we are looking at the memeification of the Harris candidacy. And yes, all things Brat Summer next. We are back now with the collision course tonight between political junkies and the extremely online. Because the newest memes taking over TikTok, Instagram, X, so many, are about Kamala Harris's candidacy. And while, yes, bear with us, the olds are about to teach a lesson to the other olds about Brat Summer and the coconut tree. The whole thing says a lot about Democrats, Gen Z, and what it all means for a potential Harris 2024 ticket. Here's Yasmin Vasugian.
Move over, Dark Brandon. It's Brat Summer, and Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign, fresh off her endorsement from President Biden, is leaning in. What is Brat, you ask? It's a vibe, embracing a rebellious be-yourself attitude. I'll let British pop star Charlie XCX explain it.
It's very honest, it's very blunt, a little bit volatile.
TikTokers took it from there after Biden's disastrous debate, mashing together some of the vice president's greatest hits set to the track. And after Biden dropped out of the race on Sunday, Charlie XCX tweeting, "Kamala is brat." The meme now taking off like wildfire, with @Kamala HQ transforming its cover page to mimic the Brat's cover album.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Coconut tree? Lawmakers posting their endorsements of the VP with a coconut and a palm tree, all stemming from this moment.
My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, "I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you."
Those comments from a White House event last year focused on advancing opportunities in the Hispanic community, going viral and taking off again now. It's a boost of excitement on social media and with younger voters that Democrats desperately needed. But the right also pushing memes of Harris. This comment from former President Trump on Saturday.
I call her Laughing Kamala. You ever watch her laugh? She's crazy.
Prompting a mashup, questioning her ability to lead. Not unlike the attacks Trump made against his last female Democratic opponent in 2016, Hillary Clinton. But in a news cycle where Donald Trump has dominated the narrative, only time will tell if the vice president's TikTok mania will help win the White House and a repeat of a moment like this from 2020.
We did it. We did it, Joe.
Yasmin is joining us now. What's so interesting here, Yas, is a couple of things. In some instances, it was Republicans amplifying some of these moments. I'm thinking of the fell out of a coconut tree moment that have now been co-opted by Democrats who are like, yeah, I will post the coconut palm tree emoji, and it means like I'm part of the K-Hive, basically.
By the way, they're riding with it, Hal, and you had me looking up as I was working on this thing a couple hours ago thinking, am I brat? Can I be brat just like Kamala Harris? Am I considered brat, right? What does it even actually mean? Being yourself, kind of the anti-Barbie, that's where it all came from. But amazingly enough, as you mentioned, right, Democrats are kind of co-opting this thing and running with it for Kamala Harris and Kamala HQ. Ella Emhoff, her stepdaughter, essentially retweeting Charlie XCX saying she gets it. Right, that was kind of the official, unofficial response to the tweet that was put out there by this UK pop star. Looking at some polling, as I mentioned, right, this could really help with young voters as the president was struggling amongst young voters. Bringing up some of those numbers, Hal, if I can for a moment, if we looked at exit polls back from 2020, Donald Trump was at 36, Joe Biden was at 60. Go, though, to July of 2024, you're seeing on your same screen there, Biden 46, Donald Trump at 42, but Kamala Harris within that margin of error, 46 to 47. So we'll see kind of how this meme-tastic thing is really going to take off amongst younger voters for Kamala Harris. How?
Yasmin Vasugian, there's nobody I would want to explain Brat Summer more to me than you. Bless you. Love seeing you.
I hope I got it right, my friend.
Appreciate you. Thank you. That does it for this hour. You get a little everything on this show. We'll see you back here tomorrow with more coverage picking up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.